Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to conduct a little experiment. I have probably thousands of these Pokemon code cards that have been used. And instead of throwing them in the garbage, which is normally where they would go, let's convert them into fire starters when I go camping. I don't know if this will work, but we are going to try. I started by ripping them up one by one. This obviously was taking very long, so I ripped them up best I could and started putting them into my blender. And as you can see, there are a lot left. I then added some water to this concoction to help with the blending. After I felt like it was blended well enough, I strained it in a strainer, getting out all the liquid as best I could. Now at first I used the oven to dehydrate it, but it was taking too long, so I brought it outside and flattened it out and just let nature take its course. And after about 2 days, it was soft enough with less moisture for me to bring it inside and start to crumble it up into smaller pieces. And another 24 hours later, we ended up with these great little dry paper nuggets made out of our code cards. Now the next step was to melt some paraffin wax. This is very common, cheap paraffin wax. You don't need anything very expensive. Now I was originally going to use these little paper cups and actually fill the cups up with the paper and wax, but I decided not to use them. They just didn't hold the nuggets all that well, so I disregarded. Now the next step after the wax was completely melted at a low heat was to get the paper into the wax. As you can see, my nuggets are ready to go, and I did rip up some extra code cards just in case, maybe add a little bit of bulk. And as you can see, I pretty much just started putting the nuggets into the wax little bit by little bit, making sure they get coated. Once the bulk got high enough, I had to take a fork and start pushing it down into the wax to make sure it was fully coated in the wax. I decided to protect the pan a little bit by putting down some wax paper. I figured, hey, why not? Worst comes to worst, the wax goes with the nuggets. I laid down a thin layer of this extra bulk I had ripped up. I then proceeded to pour my little wax concoction here onto my pan, trying to separate them best I could. I wasn't sure how it was going to set, whether it was going to set and solidify into a block, or if it was going to solidify into small nuggets like it had originally. I just wasn't sure how this was going to come out. So I kind of put it on and I flattened it out best I could and waited for it to dry. And about an hour later, I pulled it out of the fridge, which is where I had it to cool down. And as you can see, it was a pretty solid block, but it appeared easily ripped apart. So because they were all separate pieces, I could literally just use my hands and pull chunks off. So that's how I decided to store it. And this wouldn't be an experiment unless I at least tried to set one of the nuggets on fire and see how it burns. And I will say it worked very, very well. So the next step was to, of course, try and break this up best I could. Originally, I was going to try and use a knife to break it up, but for the most part, I realized I could just do it with my hands. So I broke it up into pieces and stored them in a small Tupperware container, actually 2 of them. I made quite a bit, and I stored them away for later use when we go camping this season. And I figured it didn't hurt to show you what I normally do when it comes to fire starters. Pretty much throughout the year, I hold on to the paper rolls that are around the house, and I hold on to dryer lint. What I do is I throw the dryer lint inside of these rolls, then I wrap them up in wax paper, and they work wonders while you're camping. The only downside is they do burn quickly, so after they burn fast, you gotta take another one and do it all over again. If it's a windy day or a cold day, you might use 2 or 3 of these before you actually make the fire hot enough to continue to burn. That's where the little wax nuggets come in. They burn longer, and they will burn hotter. So a combination of both of these techniques will pretty much promise me a really good campfire when that time comes. Well, thank you for following me on this journey, and let me know if you do something similar at home and what your concoction is and how it works. Yours may work a lot better than mine, and if it does, spread the word and let all the viewers know. Thanks for watching. Happy camping.